Now, recently, the NOAA was told not to contradict Donald Trump on his lies about the path of Hurricane Dorian. So this has been a very long, uh, very interesting road that we have been on about Sharpie Gate. Right. So now we find out, thanks to the New York Times, that it was none other than Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, who it now has been reported to have threatened to fire top officials at the NOAA for contradicting Trump. So now okay, let me give you a little bit of a timeline here. Following the correction of Trump from the Birmingham National Weather Service, and then nearly 5 days after Donald Trump's tweet, Ross had phoned the NOAA acting administrator, Dr. Neil Jacobs, from Greece and instructed Jacobs to, quote, fix the agency's perceived contradiction of the president. Three people familiar with the interaction told the New York Times. Now, according to the report, after Jacobs objected to Ross's demands, he was told that NOAA's politically appointed employees would all be fired if the situation was not rectified. Basically, siding with President Trump on his prediction that was wrong about Dorian impacting Alabama. Again, this is something that President Trump wanted to be true so badly that he took a Sharpie and drew out an extra circle on a map, which is a crime, by the way. You're not supposed to alter National Weather Service maps, especially in an emergency, but he did anyway because he desperately, desperately wanted to be right about something. So now here comes Wilbur Ross and says, you know what? If you don't make it so that the president is right, even though he's wrong, then you will be fired. And we will put in people who will do exactly what we tell them to do. And so the NOAA had released a controversial unsigned statement following that appeared to vindicate the president's incorrect forecast. And let me give you that statement. From Wednesday, August 28th through Monday, September 2nd, the information provided by the NOAA and the National Hurricane Center to President Trump and the wider public demonstrated that tropical storm force winds from Hurricane Dorian could impact Alabama. This is clearly demonstrated in Hurricane Advisories number 15 through number 41. So the thing is that even though that there were force winds that could have hit Alabama, those winds rarely report the kind of damage or cause the kind of damage that Trump had tweeted about. And therefore wasn't a gigantic concern, especially since the hurricane was hitting elsewhere at that point. Much, much stronger. The Bahamas got hit really, really bad. Florida got hit as well, and parts of North Carolina. So now, as Law and Crime had reported earlier on Monday, the NOAA's chief scientist, Craig McLean, said on Sunday that he announced that he was opening an investigation into that unsigned statement that backed Donald Trump's false assertions. McLean's email to NOAA employees Sunday made clear that the acting head of the agency believed the agency's response was politically motivated and antithetical to its mission, which is 100% true. The NWS forecasters corrected any public misunderstanding in an expert and timely way, as they should. Well, thank goodness for McLean for having some balls, for standing up and saying, no. What they did, what NWS Birmingham did, was the truth. Now, there followed last Friday, he continued, an unsigned press release from NOAA that inappropriately and incorrectly contradicted the NWS forecaster. My understanding is that this is intervention to contradict the forecaster was not based on science, but on external factors, including reputation and appearance, or simply put, political. Yes, the reputation and appearance of President Trump, who, again, you can't tell that he's wrong because he throws a fit since he's a baby. Moving on. And so now we know, we've seen this, that this entire statement was put out because people's jobs were threatened if they didn't do political correctness on behalf of Donald Trump. And that's the reality of the situation. These people had been ordered to back up lies in order to protect the oh so fragile feelings of Mr. Trump. Now, I wish I could say that this surprises me, but it really doesn't. Republicans are incredibly hypocritical when it comes to political correctness. Now they think PC culture, by the way, is people stopping them from using the N word. They desperately want to scream the N word from the rooftops. They just do. I don't know why. I don't have that desire, but they think no. You're preventing me from saying the N word. How dare you? PC culture, political correctness, gone amok, run amok. But in reality, if you're pushing a false narrative or you're straight up lying and then you get the government to cover for you, that is political correctness. That's the literal definition. The president is always right. The government is always right. That is political correctness, 100%. That's what they did back in Germany. They said, no, the government is 100% right. We don't care about the science. We don't care about the facts. We care about what's politically correct, not what's actually correct. So understand that that's where that comes from. That's where that comes from. Okay. So now, backlash. I love it. Professor Jennifer Taub, she teaches at the Vermont Law School. She responded by saying, Secretary Ross, it's time to resign. Not only that, she was joined in by attorney George Conway. Now, George Conway is husband to presidential advisor Kellyanne Conway, who quote tweeted Taub's statement under the heading, absolutely. Others expressed similar sentiments. Glenn Kessler on Twitter tweeted this out. He's a writer for the Washington Post. He said, amidst the days when officials resign on principle rather than carry out clearly wrong orders, Josh Dawsey said, must say I was not expecting a Wilbur Ross appearance in this episode. Well, I mean, you never know with the Trump reality show. Rick Hasen, a professor of law and political science at UC Irvine, also wrote this. Trump Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who lied about his reason for including a citizenship question on the census, that's important, pressured NOAA officials on Trump's misstatement about Alabama hurricane. Representative Don Beyer and Paul Tonko, two Democrats, also demanded the secretary step down in statements late on Monday, saying Ross's reported threats were an embarrassing new low. You guys haven't been paying attention, have you? Wilbur Ross, Beyer wrote, does not deserve the trust of the American people or a place in the cabinet, and he should be dismissed immediately. Tonko wrote this, reporting now suggests that Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross put the safety of countless Americans at risk by compromising America's hurricane warning system just to protect the president's ego. If these reports are true, Secretary Ross needs to take responsibility and resign. And look, if he does resign, at least he can go sleep in peace, as he tends to during important cabinet meetings. Just saying. Now, more fun tweets. G House of Brick says it's time for Secretary Ross to be resign or be impeached. You are an idiot looking for a village. You chose to lie for a megalomaniac over the safety of the American people. We have seen your true colors again and again. You must go. Nan P says, you're a disgrace. You're disgusting, threatening to fire people for telling the truth. What the actual F is wrong with you? Stop normalizing the imbecile in the White House. You owe the American people better. Yeah, but people like Wilbur Ross, they're only there for the power. And they were only there because they were willing to shamelessly defend Donald Trump on essentially everything. It doesn't matter what lie comes out of his mouth. Wilbur Ross has 10 lies to back him up and is willing to threaten people in order to cover for those lies. It's not so much the crime. This was really tiny. No, it's the cover up. That's the worst part. All right. One more here. The American Pulse says this is blatantly autocratic and un-American. Secretary Ross should immediately resign. A public service deserves better than to be told to pander to politicians. Public administrators should not be subjected to partisan hackery. And of course, there are many, many more calls for Ross's resignation because Ross has proven himself to be a complete and utter political hack. He doesn't care about facts, only Trump's feelings Remember, facts, not feelings, right? This administration, it's feelings, not facts. And so that's all he cares about. And of course, his own job and his own power. And that's ultimately what it comes down to.